The colony world of Veyros was calm that morning. Its skies were pale blue, touched with silver clouds, and its twin suns gave the air a soft warmth. Humans and aliens lived side by side here, trading, farming, mining, trying to make something better together. Children of both species often played in the narrow streets, their laughter echoing off the sandstone buildings. On one of those streets, a small boy chased a ball made from scrap metal and fabric. His father, a broad-shouldered miner with calloused hands, leaned against a wall, smiling as he watched. The man was tired, his shifts underground lasted long hours, but nothing gave him more strength than seeing his son laugh. Then the sound came. Boots. Not human boots. Heavy, iron-shod, marching in rhythm. The street grew quiet as shadows stretched across the cobblestones. At the far end, a squad of soldiers appeared, their armor dark and sharp, marked with the crimson crest of the Vela Dominion, the alien empire that claimed this region of space. The father stiffened. He knew the Dominion's soldiers were dangerous. They had been known to harass colonists, demanding tribute, food, or worse. He whispered to his son to stay close. But the boy's ball rolled into the street, stopping just as the soldiers reached it. One of them kicked the ball aside and laughed. The boy froze. Out of the way, little rat, the soldier sneered in the guttural Vela tongue. The father stepped forward, planting himself between the soldiers and his son. "He's just a child," he said firmly. "Leave him alone." The soldiers looked at one another and chuckled. Their leader, a tall alien with jagged tusks, leaned down so his shadow fell across the man. "A human dares to stand in our path. Do you think you are strong enough to stop us?" The miner's voice shook, but he did not move aside. "You'll go no further." Around them, doors creaked open. Neighbors peeked out, humans and aliens alike. The whole street seemed to hold its breath. Everyone knew what might happen, but no one stepped forward. No one but the father. The soldiers laughed openly now, the sound cruel and metallic. One raised his weapon, tapping it against the father's chest plate. "You humans are weak. Always pretending to be brave. But when we strike, you fall like insects." The boy clutched his father's leg, eyes wide with fear. The father put a hand on his son's head. His voice was calm, steady. "Run when I say." Then the leader gave a signal. It happened fast. Too fast. A flash of energy, a sickening crack. The father staggered, his chest burning with a wound no miner's body could survive. His knees buckled, but he stayed standing for one final moment, as if sheer willpower alone kept him upright. Then he fell forward onto the stone street, his son screaming as the light faded from his eyes. The child's cry cut through the air like a blade. The soldiers smirked and walked past, stepping over the man's body as if it were nothing more than trash. "Remember this, humans," the leader called out, his voice echoing against the walls. "You are nothing. You are powerless." The squad marched on, their boots fading into the distance. For a moment, the street was silent. No one moved. The boy knelt beside his father, sobbing, trying to shake him awake. Neighbors finally rushed out, pulling the child into their arms, whispering words of comfort that meant nothing in that moment. A woman pressed her hand against the father's wound, though she knew it was hopeless. The life had already left him. Another man looked around with wide, furious eyes. "They killed him. In front of all of us." "Careful," someone whispered. The soldiers may still be near. But anger was already spreading through the crowd, burning in the whispers that passed from mouth to mouth. "The Terrans will not forgive this." One man pointed upward, to a small floating drone hidden near the roof of a building. Its lens glowed faintly. "It saw everything," he said. "Every word. Every second." The drone had recorded the entire event, the soldiers' laughter, the father's defiance, the brutal strike. Already, its signal was racing through satellites, bouncing across the colony's networks, and leaping into the secure channels that connected to Earth itself. The child, still clinging to the woman's robes, looked up as if sensing something. His face was streaked with tears, his small hands trembling. Yet in his eyes there was no fear now, only the beginning of something harder, sharper. Night fell over Veyros, but no one slept easily. Across the colony, the story spread like fire. Taverns, mines, Markets all whispered the same words. The Vila killed a Terran father protecting his child. Some whispered in fear. Others whispered with grim satisfaction, because they knew Earth would not let this go. The miners spoke of old wars, of the time before the colonies, when Earth had burned invaders from the skies. Merchants remembered the fleets being built in silence, stronger and stronger with each passing year. They don't understand, one alien trader said softly. Humans don't forget. And they never forgive when family is taken from them. High above the planet, the drone's transmission reached a Terran relay station. Then it leapt across the void, faster than light, toward Earth itself. In the colony's streets, the boy finally fell asleep in the arms of a neighbor, clutching the scrap metal ball his father had once laughed at. His father's body was covered with a simple cloth, and candles burned around him in silence. But the silence would not last. Far away, in the heart of humanity's homeworld, leaders, soldiers, and ordinary people alike would soon see the father's final stand. They would hear his last words, see the child scream, and watch the alien soldiers mock his death. And when they did, the universe itself would tremble. Because Earth's answer was never silence. It was fire and fury. The transmission traveled across the stars faster than anyone could believe. From the small hidden drone in the colony street, the signal leapt from satellite to satellite, through secure relays, until finally it reached Earth itself. In the heart of New Geneva, Earth's capital, the message came alive on giant screens inside the council hall. Politicians, generals, and civilians all gathered as the recording began. The image was simple. A child, playing with a ball. A father, smiling. Then the boots, the shadows, the soldiers. Everyone in the chamber leaned forward, silent, as the scene unfolded. The moment the father stepped in front of his child, a low murmur spread across the hall. Some whispered "brave man." Others clenched their fists. Then came the strike. The flash. The fall. The scream of the boy echoed through the speakers, raw and piercing. A few people in the chamber wiped their eyes. The soldiers' mocking laughter filled the hall, and something changed in the air. People sat straighter. Soldiers in the back row tightened their jaws. The chamber was filled with anger that burned like a hidden fire. The recording ended. For a moment, there was silence. Then voices rose all at once. They killed him in front of his child. An innocent man. Do they think we will stay quiet? The council leader, an older woman with steel in her voice, raised her hand. The room quieted. We have seen the truth, she said. The Vila Dominion mocks us. They believe humanity is weak. They believe we will bow our heads and accept this. She paused, her eyes moving over the generals, the scientists, the civilian leaders. Will we? The answer came as a roar. No. Outside the chamber, the video spread across Earth within hours. News networks replayed it endlessly. The father's final stand filled every screen, every home, every city street. Crowds gathered in squares, their voices echoing the same words. No one kills a Terran and walks free. In factories, workers stopped their machines to watch. In schools, children stared at the boys cry, some holding each other's hands in silence. In military bases, soldiers demanded orders, their faces hard with fury. The image of the miner became a symbol. Posters appeared overnight, a silhouette of a man standing tall against a wall of armored soldiers, his child behind him. Across the bottom, bold words read, "Never again." In orbit, fleets prepared quietly. Ships that had rested for years were awakened. Engineers worked around the clock, loading weapons, testing engines, checking shields. The skies above Earth glowed with new energy. The Vila Dominion did not understand what had begun. On Veyros, the colony world where the father had fallen, whispers spread in the night. Aliens who had lived beside humans shook their heads in fear. They knew what the Vila had done was more than murder. It was an insult that would demand an answer. The Terrans will not forgive this, one old alien trader said in a hushed voice. I saw them fight before. I saw what they did in the Orion Wars. They are slow to anger, but once they burn, nothing survives. Back on Earth, the child who had lost his father was brought to safety. He was taken aboard a ship bound for humanity's homeworld, watched over by soldiers who treated him like their own. The boy did not speak much. He only held the scrap metal ball tight in his small hands. But when he looked at the stars through the window, his eyes were filled not with fear, but with something else, something harder. The generals of Earth met in secret rooms, planning quietly. They did not shout or boast. They spoke in calm voices, moving tokens across star maps, tracing paths of fleets. The soldiers' laughter from the recording still echoed in their minds. "We will not strike blindly," one general said. "We will strike with precision. We will strike so the galaxy remembers." Another general nodded. "The Dominion thinks this was just one man. They will soon learn that one human life is never cheap." Meanwhile, messages flooded into the council from human colonies across the galaxy. Miners, traders, farmers, scientists all demanded justice. Some begged to be allowed to fight. Others simply wrote 3 words, "For the Father." In the streets of Earth's great cities, crowds marched with torches, their chants filling the air. Justice, justice, justice. The Vila Dominion sent no apology. No words of regret. Instead, their leaders released a statement: it was only one human. His life was of no value. The Dominion owes nothing. Those words were replayed on Earth's networks, and fury exploded. The council leader appeared on every screen, her face calm, her voice steady. "They say his life had no value," she said. "Then let us show them the value of a human life." Across the stars, fleets began to move. Warships left Earth's orbit, their engines burning bright. Colonies sent supplies. Factories roared with life. Humanity's silence ended. The boy's face appeared on banners, his cry echoing in broadcasts. He had lost his father, but his grief had become a spark that lit a fire across Earth itself. And the Vila Dominion, sitting smug in their capital, had no idea what storm was about to descend on them. The universe held its breath. Because Earth was no longer asking for justice. Earth was preparing for war. The Galactic Council chamber was carved into a colossal sphere of shining crystal, its ceiling high enough to hold the skies of a small planet. Delegates from 100 different species filled the tiers, their voices murmuring like waves crashing against stone. The topic was supposed to be trade routes. But no one cared about trade today. The recording of the human father's death had already reached every corner of the galaxy. At the center of the chamber stood the Vila Dominion's representatives, armored and proud. Their tusks gleamed in the light, and their red crests marked them as nobles of their empire. They stood tall, smug, as if nothing could touch them. Then the humans entered. 3 Terran ambassadors walked into the circle, their black uniforms sharp, their faces carved from stone. Behind them marched a line of human soldiers in ceremonial armor, not for war but as a statement: "We are here, and we are not afraid." The chamber fell silent. Even the Vila shifted uneasily for a moment, though their leader quickly covered it with a sneer. The council speaker, a scaled creature with golden eyes, tapped his staff. "The matter before us, the killing of a human citizen by Vila soldiers on the colony of Veyros. Humanity has demanded this session. Let their words be heard." The lead human ambassador stepped forward. His voice was calm, but every word struck like iron. A man stood in front of his child. He begged for mercy. He was mocked, then murdered in the street. His death was recorded. The galaxy has seen it. And yet the Vila Dominion offers no justice. No trial. No punishment. His voice hardened. "So we stand here today to ask the council, will you deliver justice? Or will you stand aside and watch the galaxy burn?" A ripple ran through the chamber. Some delegates murmured in agreement, others shook their heads nervously. The Vila representative finally stepped forward, his tusks bared in a cruel smile. "You speak of justice? It was one human. One miner. He was nothing. Your kind breeds quickly, you will not miss him. The Dominion owes nothing for the life of a weakling." Gasps filled the chamber. Some species looked horrified. Others laughed nervously, afraid of choosing sides. The human ambassador's eyes narrowed. His voice dropped, quiet but deadly. "You think his life was nothing. You believe one Terran death is cheap. But hear me now, and hear me well, No human life is ever cheap. Every one of us is worth more than all your empire's pride. The Vila delegate snorted. Big words for a young species. You have fleets, yes, but you are not strong enough to face us. Do not pretend otherwise. For the first time, the ambassador allowed himself a thin, cold smile. Do you truly believe we are not strong enough? Then perhaps you should look to your border worlds. Even now, Terran fleets prepare to move. The Vila froze, their sneers faltering. The chamber erupted in noise, shouts, roars, whispered warnings. The council speaker banged his staff. Order! Order! The human ambassador raised his voice above the storm. We asked you for justice. We asked you to hold the Vila accountable for their crime. But if this council refuses, then Earth will deliver justice itself. We will not ask again. The words hung in the air like thunder. Some delegates leaned toward the humans with quiet respect. Others whispered in fear. The Vila delegation snarled, but their eyes betrayed unease. The ambassador turned his gaze slowly around the chamber, his voice low and steady. Do not mistake us. Humanity is slow to anger. But when our families are threatened, when our children are harmed, we burn hotter than any star. The Vila Dominion has mocked us for the last time. Then, with a sharp bow, the humans turned and walked out of the chamber. Their boots echoed against the crystal floor like war drums. The soldiers followed, heads high, eyes blazing. When the great doors shut behind them, the chamber erupted into chaos. Delegates shouted at one another, some demanding peace, others calling the humans reckless. The Vila leaders bellowed, promising that the Dominion would crush any Terran fleet that dared to cross their borders. But in the shadows of the chamber, other species whispered quietly. They will not crush the humans. They have awakened something they do not understand. The Terrans will bring fire. Far above Earth, fleets of warships were already moving into position. Carriers, destroyers, cruisers all armed with weapons the Vila had never seen before. Engines roared to life, brighter than the stars themselves. On the colony of Veyros, the boy who had lost his father sat in silence, staring at the night sky. He did not speak. He only held the ball his father had once tossed to him. But when he clenched it in his hands, his small face hardened. The galaxy thought humanity was weak. They would soon learn the truth. Earth had asked for justice. The Council had refused. Now Earth would answer with fire. The void of space was never silent, not for those who listened. Ships hummed with energy, weapons clicked into readiness, engines roared like hidden beasts. On the edges of the Vila Dominion, in dark star systems where few ever traveled, something moved. Human fleets. They slipped out of jump space one by one, their hulls black as night, marked only by the white crest of Earth. Carriers unfolded like iron cities, destroyers glided like predators, and cruisers stretched their long barrels outward, their railguns gleaming in starlight. Admiral Rourke stood on the bridge of the TNS Vengeance, his face cold as stone. Around him, officers moved with calm precision, their eyes sharp. None needed speeches. Every one of them had seen the recording. Every one of them remembered the father who had fallen in the street. The Admiral gave the order in a quiet voice, "Begin." And Earth's answer began. The first strike fell on a Vila border outpost, a fortress built into the side of a red moon. The Dominion soldiers laughed when they detected human ships. They thought it was a raid, a reckless show of force. Their laughter ended when the first Terran railgun fired. A spear of metal, accelerated to near-light speed, tore through the outpost's shields as if they were glass. The moon shuddered. The fortress cracked open like an egg, spilling fire into the vacuum. Before the Vila could even respond, the Terrans unleashed their second wave. Plasma warheads streaked across the sky, burning brighter than suns. When the light faded, nothing remained of the fortress but drifting shards. Word spread quickly, but the Vila leaders mocked the attack. One station, they sneered. One fortress. That is all they can do. They were wrong. Within hours, 3 more Vila worlds went dark. Human warships struck with terrifying precision. They did not bombard civilians. They did not slaughter blindly. They cut through military bases, shipyards, and supply hubs with surgical strikes. Every blow carried the same message: this is for the father. This is for the child. On one world, a Vela fleet of 12 ships rose to meet the humans. The battle lasted 7 minutes. When it ended, every Vela ship was gone, torn apart by railgun fire. Not a single Terran vessel was lost. The Dominion's arrogance began to crack. In their grand halls, Vela generals pounded their fists on stone tables. How are they doing this? One demanded. They were nothing. They were weak. But reports told the truth. The Terrans had weapons no one expected: kinetic strikes faster than light, plasma lances that pierced capital ships, drones that swarmed like angry wasps. And worse, they fought with discipline, with fury sharpened into steel. Across the Dominion's colonies, panic spread. Civilians whispered, "The humans are coming." Soldiers deserted, abandoning their posts. Whole garrisons surrendered at the sight of a single Terran ship. And through it all, Earth's broadcasts filled the airwaves. The same image, repeated again and again: the father standing before the soldiers, his child behind him. The voice of a Terran commander echoed over every frequency. "A human life is never cheap. You took one. Now you will pay for all." In markets and taverns, aliens who had once laughed at humans sat in silence, watching. Some whispered, perhaps the Terrans were right to fight. Others shivered, fearing that humanity's fury would not stop with the Vela. On the Bridge of the Vengeance, Admiral Rourke stood over a glowing map of the stars. Red dots marked Vela strongholds. Blue lines traced the Terran fleets as they moved ever deeper. "Next target," an officer said. The Admiral's eyes narrowed. "Take their shipyard at Korath. Without it, their fleets will starve." The fleet jumped. At Korath, the Vela waited with 30 warships, confident they would crush the humans. But when the Terrans arrived, the sky itself seemed to burn. Missiles screamed through space. Railguns thundered like gods. Vela ships shattered one by one. In less than half an hour, the shipyard was gone, and with it the Dominion's hope of rebuilding. The galaxy watched in awe. In the council chamber, delegates whispered nervously. Some wanted to condemn Earth for its fury. Others stayed quiet, remembering the recording. None wanted to face the same storm. On Veyros, the colony where it all began, the boy who had lost his father watched news broadcasts. He sat in silence, clutching his ball, as the screen showed Terran fleets burning through enemy lines. A soldier beside him knelt and said gently, "Your father is avenged." The boy did not speak. But his eyes glimmered, reflecting the fire of Earth's vengeance. By the end of the week, 10 Vela systems had fallen. Their empire, once feared, was collapsing under the weight of a single truth: they had awakened humanity's wrath. And humanity's wrath did not stop. The Terrans had been mocked, insulted, spat upon. Now they moved with one voice, one purpose, one unstoppable fire. The Vela Dominion had thought a human life was worth nothing. Now they knew the price. And it was paid in fire and fury across the stars. The war no longer belonged to the generals. It belonged to the people. Every human, from Earth to the farthest colonies, carried the same fire inside them. They had seen the father's last stand. They had heard the child's scream. And now, they wanted the galaxy to remember what it meant to hurt one of their own. Earth's fleets moved like storms across the stars. They did not pause. They did not hesitate. Every strike was calculated, precise, and merciless against the Vela Dominion's strength. On one border world, Vela troops tried to hold their ground. They dug trenches, raised shields, and prepared for battle. When the Terran fleet arrived, the defenders shouted to one another, "We will not run." But then the sky opened. From orbit, Terran railguns fired tungsten rods the size of towers, each one burning like a falling star. The ground shook. The trenches collapsed. The Vela soldiers threw down their weapons and fled. In the aftermath, Earth soldiers walked through the broken fortresses, not with cruelty, but with cold efficiency. They freed alien slaves, dismantled Dominion banners, and left behind one message, carved into walls and burned into the airwaves. "This is for the father. This is for the child." The phrase spread faster than fire. On alien marketplaces, on distant colonies, even in the slums of Dominion cities, Whispers grew, the humans fight for one life. Imagine how they would fight for many. Some species, long oppressed by the Vila, began to cheer quietly for Earth. Others remained silent, too afraid to take sides. But everyone was watching. In the heart of Earth, the boy who had lost his father became more than a child. His face, captured in the moment of his scream, appeared on banners, in news feeds, on murals painted across city walls. To soldiers, he was a reminder of why they fought. To civilians, he was a symbol of what it meant to be human. Fragile, yes, but never weak. Posters showed his father's silhouette standing tall against armored soldiers, the words "never again" stamped in bold beneath. Pilots painted the image on their ships. Marines stitched it into their flags. Even civilians in distant colonies wore badges with the child's face, vowing they would never forget. In Vila halls, panic grew. Generals argued, shouting at one another. Some wanted to strike Earth directly. Others demanded retreat. None could explain why their fleets fell so quickly. Humans were supposed to be nothing, one Vila leader growled. They were supposed to bend. But instead, entire Dominion regiments surrendered without firing a shot. Soldiers laid down their weapons the moment Terran ships appeared. Some even shouted, "We will not fight humans." Fear spread like a plague. At the Galactic Council, the noise grew louder. Alien delegates demanded answers. Some accused Earth of waging total war. Others whispered that perhaps the humans were right, that the Vila deserved their fate. Still, Earth's ambassadors said little. They did not boast. They did not beg for approval. They simply repeated their warning. One Terran life is never cheap. If you doubt us, keep watching. And the galaxy kept watching. One night, in the Dominion capital, a secret meeting took place. Merchants, workers, even minor nobles gathered in shadows, whispering in fear. They spoke of the Terrans' fury, of their victories, of how the Dominion could no longer protect its own people. They fight for a single child, one merchant said. If they fight like this for one, what would they do for all their kind? No one answered, but the silence was heavy. Meanwhile, the Terran fleets struck deeper. They cut supply lines, shattered shipyards, destroyed command centers. Every strike was like a blade cutting the heart of the Dominion. On the bridge of the TNS Vengeance, Admiral Rourke stood silent, watching as another red dot vanished from the star map. His officers reported victory after victory, but none smiled. They knew this war was not about triumph or pride. It was about justice. "Sir," an officer said quietly, "the Vila are breaking. Entire sectors surrendering without a fight." Rourke's eyes narrowed. "Good. Let them learn. But we don't stop. Not until the ones responsible stand before us." Far away, the boy sat in his quarters on Earth, watching a broadcast of another Terran fleet returning home. Soldiers saluted as crowds cheered, their voices echoing, "For the father, for the child." The boy said nothing. He simply held his ball, his small hands tight around it. But for the first time since that day on the colony street, he did not cry. The Vila Dominion had thought humanity would bow, would stay silent, would break under their mockery. Instead, they had awakened something far worse. The fury of an entire species. And that fury was spreading, unstoppable, across the stars. The Vila Dominion had ruled for centuries. They had crushed rebellions, silenced rivals, and cowed entire civilizations into obedience. But now, their empire was bleeding. And it was humanity that made them bleed. Every day brought more reports of defeat. Fleets shattered. Colonies lost. Commanders missing. Soldiers surrendering before a single Terran shot was fired. The Dominion's pride cracked like glass. In their war council chamber, the highest Vila lords argued. "They are only humans," one shouted. "This fury cannot last. They are burning themselves out." But another answered with trembling hands, "No. They fight harder with every loss. They do not forget. They do not forgive. Have you not seen their broadcasts? A single child, and they turn into a storm." Silence followed. For the first time in generations, the Dominion had no answer. Meanwhile, Earth's fleets pressed deeper. The TNS Vengeance led assaults on core Vela strongholds. Their strategy was not to hold ground but to break the Dominion's spine. They cut through supply lines, dismantled communication hubs, and destroyed the symbols of Vela power one by one. Every strike was recorded. Every liberation streamed across the galaxy. On neutral worlds, aliens gathered in crowded halls, staring at screens that showed Terran soldiers walking side by side with freed captives. They watched Dominion banners fall, replaced by the words, "Never again." A merchant whispered in awe, "They do not fight for riches. They do not fight for conquest. They fight for one of their own." The idea spread like a flame on dry grass. And in the shadows of the Dominion itself, whispers grew louder. Miners on factory worlds refused to work. Soldiers muttered in their barracks. Even low-ranking officials began to question whether the Vela could still protect them. Fear turned to doubt. Doubt turned to cracks. On Earth, the boy who had lost his father continued to live quietly. But he was no longer hidden. Leaders visited him. Soldiers saluted him. Newsfeeds showed his calm face across the stars. To many, he was no longer just a child. He was the symbol of Terran resolve. But the boy did not speak to the cameras. He simply watched them in silence, clutching his toy ball. He was a child, and yet the galaxy carried his burden. Back at the Dominion capital, Vela propaganda tried to mask the truth. They broadcast victories that never happened. They showed images of Terran fleets destroyed, yet everyone knew the lies. Merchant ships whispered real news across the stars. Refugees told of Terran justice. Soldiers who deserted carried tales of Earth's wrath. And the Council of Lords grew desperate. One lord slammed his fist onto the war table. "Strike Earth itself. Burn their cities. Let them feel our true power." But another, older and wiser, shook his head. "Do you not understand? If we strike their home, they will not just fight us, they will erase us. Already, our fleets collapse. Already, our colonies surrender. We are at the breaking point." The words hung heavy in the chamber. The Vela Dominion had faced rebellions before. They had faced wars before. But never had they faced an enemy who fought not for conquest, not for greed, but for love. Love of a father. Love of a child. And that made humans more dangerous than any empire. In the outer sectors, Terran Marines stormed a massive shipyard. The Vela defenders fought desperately, shouting that the Dominion would never fall. But when the Terrans raised a banner with the boy's image, the fight ended. The defenders dropped their weapons and surrendered. The Terran commander's words echoed across every channel. "You cannot win. We are not here for conquest. We are here for justice. Every strike we make, every banner we raise, is for the one father who stood against your empire. If you think we will stop, you are already defeated." The broadcast was replayed across the galaxy. Millions heard it. Millions believed it. By now, the Dominion's leaders understood. Their empire was not just losing battles. It was losing the very will to fight. For the Vela, this was unthinkable. For centuries, fear had been their weapon. But humans had shown a truth more powerful than fear, the strength of unity, the strength of memory, the strength of defending what you love. The breaking point had come. All that remained was the question, would the Vela surrender, or would they drag their people into fire? Admiral Rourke, aboard the Vengeance, looked out into the stars. He knew the war was reaching its climax. Soon, humanity would stand face to face with the Vela rulers themselves. And when that moment came, the galaxy would finally see what Earth's fury truly meant. The Vela Dominion had always believed themselves eternal. Their fleets stretched across the stars, their armies ruled with fear, their banners hung in every corner of the galaxy. But on this day, in their capital system, that illusion shattered. The Terran fleet arrived like a wall of steel and fire. Hundreds of warships slid from hyperspace, forming a perfect spearhead. Their hulls gleamed under the light of the twin suns, their weapons already primed. Vela commanders panicked. Orders screamed across channels. Fleets scrambled to intercept. Planetary shields activated, glowing like blue fire over their cities. And then, silence. The Terran Admiral, Rourke, opened a single transmission across all frequencies. His voice was cold, steady, and unshaken. This is not about conquest. This is not about power. This is justice for the father who stood alone, and for the child he died to protect. The Dominion thought humans weak. Today, you learn what happens when you harm one of our own. The words cut through the galaxy. Billions listened. Then, Terran guns roared. From orbit, railguns fired tungsten rods that burned like falling stars. Drones swarmed, tearing apart Vila fighters. Terran battleships unleashed salvos of plasma torpedoes that cracked through shields like glass. The Dominion's defenses, once thought unbreakable, fell apart piece by piece. In the capital city, Vila civilians watched in terror as Terran weapons lit the skies. But to their shock, the humans did not fire on homes or civilians. They struck only military targets, dismantling towers of control, fortresses of oppression, and the palaces where their lords hid. The message was clear, humanity's fury was precise. Inside the Dominion Palace, the Council of Lords trembled. For the first time in centuries, their walls shook with the sound of war. Some shouted for retreat, others for surrender, but none could hide the fear in their eyes. "They will destroy us," one whispered. "Not just our fleets. Our name." And then the palace doors opened. Terran Marines, armored and unyielding, marched inside. Their rifles glowed, but they did not fire. Instead, their commander stepped forward, holding a single banner, the image of the boy's father, standing in defiance. The Vila lords froze. The banner waved in silence, a reminder of the moment their arrogance had doomed them. "You mocked one man," the Terran commander said. "You struck him down before his child. And now your empire falls." The lords dropped to their knees. Some begged. Some wept. But none dared resist. Across the galaxy, the news spread within minutes. The Vila Dominion had fallen. On Earth, crowds filled the streets, cheering as broadcasts showed the surrender. Soldiers returned home, saluted by civilians who waved banners of the father and child. But even in celebration, there was no arrogance, only solemn pride. Humanity had not fought for conquest. They had fought for justice. In the colony where it all began, the boy stood quietly in the street where his father had died. His ball rolled softly at his feet. Neighbors watched from doorways, some crying, some silent. A Terran officer approached him and knelt down. "The war is over," she said gently. "Your father did not fall in vain. The galaxy will never forget him." The boy did not answer. He only looked up at the sky, where Terran ships drifted like guardians among the stars. For the first time, his eyes held no fear. From that day forward, the galaxy spoke of the Terrans with awe and caution. They were not conquerors. They were not tyrants. They were something far more dangerous, a people who would burn worlds if it meant defending one of their own. The Dominion was gone, its banners torn down, its fleets scattered. And in its place, a new truth echoed through every system, whispered in every market, painted on every wall. Never strike a Terran child. Never test Terran fury. The father had been an ordinary miner. A man who worked with his hands, who laughed with his son, who had never sought war. Yet in standing against cruelty, he became the spark that lit the fire of a species. And that fire would never die. Because humanity had answered. With fire. With fury. And the galaxy would never forget it.